In 2012, one of the most famous companies in the world disappeared from the spotlight. Kodak, the company that had defined photography for more than a century, filed for bankruptcy. But what made Kodak's collapse shocking was not that it failed to see the future. Kodak actually invented the technology that would replace its own business. This is the story of how Kodak created digital photography, ignored its potential, and lost its position as the world's photography giant. How does a company lose a revolution that it helped create? How does a business with decades of experience, billions of dollars, and some of the smartest engineers in the world fail to adapt? To understand Kodak's downfall, we first need to understand how powerful the company once was. Today, taking a photo is effortless. A smartphone can capture thousands of images, instantly edit them, and share them with the world. But for most of history, photography was complicated, expensive, and difficult. Capturing a single moment required special equipment, technical knowledge, and a lot of patience. In 1888, George Eastman founded the Eastman Kodak Company with a simple mission: make photography accessible to everyone. Before Kodak, cameras were mostly used by professionals. Eastman changed that by creating simpler cameras and easier ways to develop photographs. Kodak transformed photography from a complicated process into something ordinary people could enjoy. Families could capture birthdays, travelers could record their journeys, people could preserve memories that would last generations. Photography was no longer just for experts, it became part of everyday life. Kodak did not just sell cameras. It built an entire ecosystem around photography. The company produced cameras, film, and printing services. Every picture taken created another opportunity for Kodak to make money. This business model turned Kodak into one of the most successful companies in the world. Throughout the 20th century, Kodak became almost impossible to compete with. The yellow Kodak logo became a symbol recognized around the world. For millions of people, Kodak was not just a company. It was photography itself. But inside, Kodak's success was a dangerous weakness. The company had built its empire around film. Selling film was where Kodak made much of its money, and eventually, a new technology would threaten to destroy that entire business. While Kodak dominated traditional photography, a different kind of revolution was beginning. Computers were becoming smaller and more powerful. Electronic sensors were improving. Engineers were beginning to imagine a world where photographs no longer needed film. Surprisingly, the company that would be threatened by digital photography was also the company that created it. Inside Kodak's laboratories, engineers were working on a technology that would completely change how the world captured images. They were building the first digital camera. In 1975, a young Kodak engineer named Steven Sasson was given a simple challenge: find a way to use a new type of electronic sensor to capture images. At the time, nobody knew this experiment would create the foundation for the future of photography. Working with a small team, Sasson created something completely different from traditional cameras. It was the world's first digital camera. Instead of using film, it captured images electronically and stored them digitally. A new era of photography had quietly begun. The first digital camera was far from perfect. It was large, heavy, and looked nothing like the cameras people use today. The images were black and white, and capturing a single photo took more than 20 seconds. By modern standards, it was extremely limited. But the idea behind it was revolutionary. Kodak had discovered something important. Photography did not have to depend on film forever. Images could become digital. They could be stored, copied, edited, and shared without ever being printed. The future of photography had arrived inside Kodak's own laboratories. But Kodak faced a difficult reality. The future of photography was also a threat to the business that made the company successful. Digital cameras could eventually replace film, and film was the foundation of Kodak's empire. Kodak executives understood the potential of digital photography, but they also understood what it could destroy. If customers stopped buying film, Kodak's most profitable business could disappear. The company was trapped between protecting the present and building the future. Instead of completely transforming itself, Kodak moved cautiously. The company continued investing in digital technology, but it did not move aggressively enough. Kodak wanted to protect its existing success while preparing for change. But technology rarely waits for companies to catch up. While Kodak hesitated, other companies began pushing digital photography forward. Electronics companies saw an opportunity. Digital cameras became smaller, cheaper, and more powerful. The technology Kodak had created was now becoming a threat from outside competitors. By the late 1990s, consumers were beginning to experience a new way of taking pictures. Digital cameras removed the need for film. People could see their photos instantly. They could delete mistakes. They could store hundreds of pictures without printing a single one. Eventually, Kodak began pushing into the digital camera market, but the company was no longer leading the revolution. It was trying to compete in a world that had already changed, and an even bigger disruption was approaching. Just as Kodak was trying to adapt to digital cameras, another revolution was beginning. Photography was about to change once again. This time, the camera would not just become digital, it would become part of something people carried every single day. Smartphones transformed photography in a way nobody expected. People no longer needed to carry a separate camera. The device in their pocket could take photos, store them, edit them, and share them instantly. The camera was no longer a product, it was a feature. When companies like Apple entered the smartphone market, the photography industry changed forever. Phones became more powerful every year, their cameras improved rapidly, and consumers started abandoning traditional cameras for the convenience of having everything in one device. For Kodak, this was devastating. The company had spent more than a century building a business around film. But consumers no longer needed rolls of film. They no longer needed photo development. The foundation of Kodak's success was disappearing. Kodak was now facing a difficult situation. Its old business was declining faster than expected. Its new digital businesses were not growing fast enough. The company was caught between the world it had created and the world it had failed to fully embrace. Meanwhile, technology companies continued moving forward. Companies that were built around electronics and software were better positioned for the digital age. They understood that the future was not just about hardware, it was about software, connectivity, and user experience. As digital photography replaced film, Kodak's revenue continued to fall. The company tried different strategies. It entered new markets, it invested in technology, but the damage had already been done. In January 2012, Kodak filed for bankruptcy protection. The announcement shocked the world. A company that had once been one of the most powerful brands in photography had reached the end of an era. Kodak's story is not simply about a company that failed to innovate. The truth is more complicated. Kodak invented digital photography. It had talented engineers. It understood the technology. But it struggled to transform itself before it was too late. The story of Kodak teaches one important lesson. Success can sometimes become the biggest obstacle to change. Companies do not always fail because they cannot see the future. Sometimes they fail because they cannot let go of the past. Kodak invented the future of photography, but it could not adapt quickly enough to survive it. The rise and fall of Kodak is a reminder that technology never stops changing. The companies that survive are not always the ones that create the future. They are the ones willing to change with it. Subscribe to Context_Docs for more stories about the companies, technologies, and decisions that changed the world.